The scream cut through the airplane cabin like a knife through glass. It wasn't just any scream. It was the kind that made your bones shake and your heart race. Every single person on Flight 447 turned their heads at the same time, like puppets pulled by invisible strings. In Seat 3A, first class, a 7-year-old boy named Tyler was having the worst moment of his life. His face was red like a tomato. Tears poured down his cheeks like rain. His small fists hit the airplane seat over and over and over. "No, no, no!" Tyler screamed. His voice was so loud that babies in the back row started crying too. His father, Mason Green, looked like he wanted to disappear. Mason was wearing a suit that cost more money than most people make in a month. But right now, his expensive clothes couldn't help him. Sweat dripped down his face. His hands shook as he tried to calm his son. "Tyler, please," Mason whispered. "Please, buddy. It's okay." But Tyler couldn't hear him. Tyler's autism made the airplane feel like a monster. The engine sounds were too loud. The lights were too bright. The smell of airplane food made him feel sick. Everything was wrong, wrong, wrong. That's when something amazing happened. A skinny boy from the very back of the plane stood up. His name was Moses. His clothes had holes in them. His shoes were held together with duct tape. But his eyes were calm like a quiet lake. Moses walked past angry passengers. He walked past flight attendants who tried to stop him. He walked straight to Tyler like he knew exactly what to do. And then Moses did something nobody expected. He sat down on the floor right next to Tyler's seat. He didn't say a word. He just sat there, rocking back and forth, matching Tyler's rhythm exactly. The whole plane went silent. But to understand how we got here, we need to go back to where it all began. Mason Green stood at the airport gate, holding Tyler's hand. To everyone watching, Mason looked like he had everything. The businessman had built a company worth billions of dollars. He had houses in 5 countries. He could buy anything he wanted. But Mason had a secret that money couldn't fix. His son Tyler had severe autism, and Mason's wife had left them both 2 years ago. She said it was too hard. Can you imagine how terrifying that must have been? Being left alone to raise a child you don't always understand? "Daddy, plane?" Tyler asked, looking up. Tyler didn't talk much. When he did, it was usually just 1 or 2 words. "Yes, buddy, we're going on the plane soon," Mason said, trying to sound happy. But inside, his stomach felt like it was full of butterflies. Tyler hated changes. He hated new places. And Mason had forgotten Tyler's special headphones at home, the ones that helped block out scary sounds. Little did they know, this decision would change everything. At the same time, just 50 feet away, Moses Williams sat on the floor. He couldn't afford a chair in the waiting area. Those cost extra money he didn't have. Moses was 12 years old, but life had made him grow up fast. Moses was flying alone to see his sick grandmother. His mom had saved money for 6 months just to buy the cheapest ticket on the plane. It was in the very last row, next to the bathroom. But Moses didn't care. He was just happy to fly. Moses noticed Tyler right away. He saw how Tyler flapped his hands when he was happy. He saw how Tyler covered his ears when the announcements came on. Moses knew those signs. His little cousin back home had autism too. "Now boarding first-class passengers," the voice said over the speaker. Mason and Tyler walked onto the plane first. Tyler seemed okay. He was even smiling a little. Mason started to relax. "Wait, I need to tell you something crucial here. You see, airplanes and autism don't always mix well. The closed space, the pressure changes, the sounds. It can be like torture for someone with sensory issues." 20 minutes later, Moses got on the plane. He had to squeeze past everyone to get to his seat in row 37. The plane was completely full, every single seat taken. Moses sat down and immediately felt the seat in front of him lean back, squishing his knees. But he didn't complain. He never complained. For the first 30 minutes of the flight, everything seemed fine. Tyler was looking out the window, watching the clouds. Mason was working on his laptop, typing important emails. In the back, Moses was reading a library book about space. He loved learning, even though his school didn't have many books. Moses believed that learning could take him anywhere, even to the stars. Then the captain's voice came on. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're experiencing some turbulence. Please remain seated with your seatbelts fastened." The plane started to shake. That's when Tyler's world fell apart. The shaking felt like an earthquake to Tyler. The seatbelt felt like a snake squeezing him. The ding of the seatbelt sign sounded like an alarm screaming in his ears. No, no, no! Tyler started to cry. Mason closed his laptop quickly. It's okay, Tyler. Just turbulence, like a bumpy road. But Tyler's brain couldn't understand. To him, the plane was breaking. They were going to fall from the sky. Everything was ending. Tyler's cries got louder and louder and louder. What happened next still gives me chills. A woman in row 5 turned around. "Can't you control your child?" she said in a mean voice. A man across the aisle muttered something about rich people who can't raise their kids right. Mason's face turned red, not from anger, from shame. He tried everything. He offered Tyler his iPad. He tried to sing Tyler's favorite song. He even tried to hold Tyler, but Tyler pushed him away. Tyler was now in full meltdown mode. He was screaming so loud that people were covering their ears. He was kicking the seat. He was throwing anything he could reach. A flight attendant came over. "Sir, you need to calm your son down, or we might have to make an emergency landing." Can you imagine the pressure Mason felt? In exactly 17 minutes, their lives would be changed forever. Mason felt tears in his own eyes. "He has autism," Mason said quietly. "He can't help it. Please, just give me time." But the flight attendant looked worried. Other passengers were getting angry, really angry. "This is ridiculous," shouted a businessman in row 8. "Some of us have important meetings." "Maybe they should have a special plane for kids like that," whispered a woman, not very quietly. Tyler heard all of it. Even in his meltdown, he could feel that everyone hated him. That made everything worse. Now he wasn't just scared, he was scared and felt like a bad boy. In row 37, Moses put down his book. He could hear Tyler all the way in the back. But unlike everyone else, Moses wasn't angry. He understood. Moses remembered when his cousin David had meltdowns. David couldn't speak at all, but Moses had learned to understand him anyway. Moses knew that autism meltdowns weren't tantrums. They were like your brain catching on fire, and you couldn't put it out. Moses stood up. "Where are you going?" asked the man next to him. "To help," Moses said simply. Moses walked up the aisle. Every single person stared at him. Some people laughed. "What's that poor kid going to do?" someone whispered. "Actually, let me pause here because this detail is important." Moses had something nobody else on that plane had. He had understanding. Moses reached first class. A flight attendant tried to stop him. "Young man, you need to return to your seat." "I can help," Moses said. His voice was quiet but strong. "This is first class. You can't—" But Moses wasn't listening. He could see Tyler now. Tyler's face was purple from crying. Spit was coming out of his mouth. His eyes looked wild and scared like a trapped animal. Moses did something that surprised everyone. He didn't try to talk to Tyler. He didn't try to touch him. Instead, Moses sat down on the floor of the airplane, right in the aisle. Then Moses started to rock, back and forth, the same speed as Tyler was rocking. Tyler noticed. Through his tears and screams, he saw this other boy, this boy who moved like him. Moses started to hum. Not a song, just a low, steady sound. Tyler's screams got a tiny bit quieter. Moses kept rocking. He pulled out a small toy from his pocket, a little spinning top. He spun it on the floor. The top went round and round, catching the light. Tyler watched the top. His screams turned to whimpers. Moses kept humming. What would you have done in this situation? Would you have had the courage to help? Mason watched in complete shock. This boy, this poor boy from the back of the plane, was doing what Mason couldn't do. He was reaching Tyler. Moses looked up at Mason. "Sir, does he have a favorite song? Not words, just the tune." Mason nodded quickly. "Twinkle, twinkle, little star." But he doesn't like words when he's upset. Moses started humming the tune. No words, just the melody. Still rocking, still spinning the top. Tyler's breathing started to slow down. He was still crying, but softer now. He was watching Moses like Moses was the most interesting thing in the world. For 10 minutes, Moses sat on that floor. The flight attendants didn't know what to do. The passengers were silent. Everyone was watching this poor black boy in torn clothes calm down the billionaire's son. Finally, Tyler did something nobody expected. He slid off his seat and sat on the floor too, right next to Moses. Moses didn't look at Tyler directly. He knew that would be too much for Tyler right now. Instead, Moses pulled out a piece of paper from his pocket. He started folding it. Tyler watched Moses's hands. Fold, crease, turn, fold again. It was becoming a paper airplane. Moses finished the plane and set it on the floor between them. He didn't fly it. He just put it there. An invitation. Tyler picked up the paper airplane. He held it like it was made of gold. Plane, Tyler said quietly. Plane, Moses agreed. But that's when they discovered something that made their blood run cold. The captain's voice came on again. Ladies and gentlemen, we've been asked to consider an emergency landing due to the disturbance. We're currently assessing the situation. Mason's face went white. An emergency landing would mean police. It would mean news stories. Billionaire's autistic son causes plane to land. It would mean humiliation for Tyler. Please, Mason said to the flight attendant. Look, he's calm now. This young man helped him. The flight attendant looked at Tyler and Moses. Tyler was now quietly flying the paper airplane in small circles, making tiny whoosh sounds. Moses was still humming softly. I need to check with the captain, she said and walked away. Moses looked up at Mason for the first time. Sir, your son isn't broken. He's just different, like my cousin David. Mason's eyes filled with tears. How did you know what to do? I listened, Moses said simply. Not with my ears, with my heart. They had no idea they only had 3 hours left before everything would change. A woman from business class stood up. She had been recording everything on her phone. This is going on social media, she said. People need to see this. This boy is a hero. No, Moses said quickly. I'm not a hero. Tyler's the hero. He was brave enough to show his feelings. Most of us hide them. Tyler looked at Moses, and for the first time in 2 years, Tyler smiled at a stranger. Friend, Tyler said. Friend, Moses agreed. The flight attendant came back. The captain says if the child remains calm, we can continue to our destination. The plane erupted in whispers. Everyone was talking about what they had just seen. Mason couldn't stop staring at Moses. This boy had done in 10 minutes what therapists had been trying to do for years. Truly connect with Tyler during a meltdown. Would you? Mason started, then stopped. How do you ask a poor child to help your rich son? Would you sit with us for the rest of the flight? I'll pay for your seat upgrade. Moses shook his head. I don't need money, sir. But Tyler might need a friend. I'll stay. For the next 2 hours, Moses and Tyler sat together. Moses showed Tyler how to make different paper airplanes. Tyler showed Moses his tablet with his favorite space videos. They didn't talk much, but they didn't need to. Little did they know, this decision would change not just their lives, but thousands of others too. Meanwhile, the woman's video was already going viral. Poor boy calms billionaire's autistic son was spreading across the internet like wildfire. By the time they landed, it had been viewed over 1 million times. Mason watched the boys and made a decision. He pulled out his phone and started making calls. Important calls to important people. Yes, I want to set up a foundation, Mason said quietly into the phone, for autism acceptance, and I want to find a young man named Moses Williams and his family. Moses heard his name but pretended not to notice. He was too busy helping Tyler count the clouds outside the window. 1 cloud, 2 cloud, 3 cloud, Tyler said, pointing. You're doing great, Tyler, Moses said. You're really smart. Tyler beamed. Nobody except his dad had ever called him smart before. As the plane began its descent, Tyler started to get nervous again. Moses noticed immediately. Hey, Tyler, when the plane goes down, it's like a big slide at the playground. Have you been on a slide? Tyler nodded. So we're just sliding down to the ground, safe and slow. Tyler grabbed Moses's hand. Moses led him. The landing was smooth. As people started getting their bags, something beautiful happened. The angry businessman from row 8 stood up and started clapping. Then the woman who had complained joined in. Soon, the entire plane was applauding. But they weren't clapping for Moses, he had made that clear. They were clapping for Tyler, for being brave, for Moses, for showing them what kindness looked like, for everyone, for learning something that day. What happened next still gives me chills, and I need to tell you about it. As they prepared to leave the plane, Tyler did something he'd never done before. He hugged Moses, a real, tight, long hug. Thank you, friend, Tyler said. 3 whole words in a row. Mason was crying now. He didn't care who saw. Moses, Mason said, I need to thank you properly. Can I have your mom's phone number? Moses wrote it down on a piece of paper. She might not answer right away. She works 3 jobs. Mason's heart broke a little more. This boy who had nothing had given his son everything. As Moses walked back to get his old backpack from row 37, Tyler called out, "Moses, see you again?" Moses turned around and smiled. "Count on it, buddy." But Mason had already made sure of that. He had bought the seat next to Moses for their return flight, and he had something much bigger planned too. The clock was ticking. In exactly 48 hours, Moses' life would change forever. But first, there was something nobody saw coming. If this story touched your heart, wait until you hear what happened when they got off the plane. The world was watching, and not everyone was happy about what they saw. Moses stepped off the plane, thinking he would just disappear into the crowd. He was wrong. Dead wrong. The airport was full of people holding up phones. Cameras flashed like lightning. Reporters pushed forward with microphones. "Moses Williams, you're a hero. How did you know what to do? Are you friends with Mason Green now?" Moses felt his chest get tight. He didn't like crowds. He didn't like noise. In a weird way, he understood exactly how Tyler must feel all the time. "Wait, I need to tell you something crucial here. Remember that video that went viral? Well, it had been shared 10 million times in just 2 hours. Moses had no idea he was now the most famous kid in America. Moses tried to run, but there were too many people. He felt tears in his eyes. Where was his grandma? She was supposed to meet him here. Suddenly, a strong hand grabbed his shoulder. Moses looked up. It was Mason Green. "Stay with me," Mason said. "Security is coming." 4 big security guards appeared and made a circle around Moses, Tyler, and Mason. They pushed through the crowd like a boat through water. "Mr. Green, is this boy going to be Tyler's new therapist?" "Moses, what do you think about autism? Are you getting paid for helping?" Moses covered his ears. It was too much. Too much. That's when Tyler did something amazing. Tyler, who never touched strangers, grabbed Moses' hand. "Friend scared," Tyler said loudly. "Everyone stop!" And for a second, everyone did stop. This little boy with autism had just protected his protector. What happened next still gives me chills. They made it to a private room in the airport. Moses was shaking. Mason gave him a bottle of water. "I'm sorry," Mason said. "I didn't know the video would spread so fast." Moses drank the water. His hands were still shaking. "I just wanted to help." "You did help, more than you know." Mason's phone buzzed. He looked at it and his face went dark. "Oh no." "What?" Moses asked. Mason showed him the phone. The comments under the video were mixed. Some were beautiful. "This boy is an angel. Faith in humanity restored. We need more people like Moses." But others were horrible. "That poor kid probably wanted money. Why was he even in first class? He doesn't belong there. The father should control his son better. Both kids need discipline." Moses read them and felt sick. People were saying mean things about him, about Tyler, about everything. Can you imagine how terrifying that must have been? To help someone and have the world judge you for it? "Don't read those," Mason said, taking the phone back. Hurt people hurt people." There was a knock on the door. A woman came in, Moses' grandmother. She was small and old, walking with a cane, but her eyes were fierce like a warrior's. "Moses!" She hugged him tight. "I saw everything on the TV in the hospital. Baby, I'm so proud of you." "Grandma, I just did what you taught me. To be kind." Grandma looked at Mason. "Mr. Green, thank you for protecting my grandson." "Ma'am, your grandson saved us today. Tyler hasn't smiled at a stranger in 2 years." Tyler was sitting in the corner, flying the paper airplane Moses had made. He was in his own world, but a peaceful one. Little did they know, this decision would change everything. Mason's phone rang. He answered it and his face got serious. "What do you mean, threats?" He hung up and looked worried. "We need to get you both somewhere safe. Some people online found out what school Moses goes to. They're saying things." "What kind of things?" Grandma asked. Mason didn't want to say in front of the boys, but Moses could guess. Some people didn't like seeing a poor black kid being called a hero. Some people didn't like seeing autism treated with kindness instead of force. "We have a car outside," Mason said. "Please, let me take you wherever you need to go." In the car, Tyler sat between Moses and his dad. He was playing with Moses's spinning top, watching it go round and round. "Moses," Tyler said suddenly. "Come home?" Mason looked at Moses. "Actually, I wanted to talk to you about something, both of you." He included Moses's grandmother. "I want to offer Moses a job." "I'm only 12, Moses said, confused. "Not a regular job. I want you to help me understand Tyler better, and—" Mason took a deep breath. "I want to start a center. A place where kids with autism can just be themselves. No judgment, no forcing them to be normal. I want to call it the Moses Center for Quiet Communication." Grandma's eyes went wide. "Mr. Green, that's very generous, but—" "Please, hear me out. Moses would help design it. He understands things that I don't, things that even the experts don't. He would be paid as a consultant. Enough to help with whatever you need." Actually, let me pause here because this detail is important. Mason wasn't just offering charity. He was offering respect. He saw Moses as an equal, not a poor kid who needed saving. Moses looked at his grandma. She was sick, really sick. The medicines cost more money than his mom could make in a year, but Moses didn't want to take charity. "I'll do it if I can really help," Moses said. "Not for the money, for kids like Tyler and my cousin David." Tyler looked up at the sound of his name. "Moses good, Moses stay." The car pulled up to the hospital where Moses's grandma was being treated. It was old and run down. Paint was peeling off the walls. Mason looked around and made another decision, but he kept that one to himself for now. 3 days later, their lives would be changed forever. Moses was back home in Atlanta. His apartment was small, just 2 rooms for him, his mom, and his sick grandma. But it was full of love. His mom, Patricia, had been crying since he got home. Happy tears and scared tears mixed together. "Baby, the whole world is watching you," she said. "I'm proud, but I'm scared too." Moses understood. At school, kids were treating him differently. Some wanted to be his friend now just because he was famous. Others were jealous. And some parents had said mean things about that boy who thinks he's special now. Mason called every day. He was serious about the center. He had already bought a building. He sent Moses pictures and videos, asking for his ideas. "What color should the quiet room be?" Mason would ask. "Blue," Moses would answer. "Like the sky, but not bright blue. Soft blue, like clouds are covering the sun a little bit." "What about lights?" "They need to be able to change them." 1 week later, Moses stood in front of a beautiful building. It was 3 stories tall with big windows that could tint dark when the sun was too bright, just like Moses had suggested. A sign out front read, "The Moses Center for Quiet Communication, where different is beautiful." "You ready?" Mason asked. Moses nodded. His mom, grandma, in a wheelchair now but smiling, and his cousin David were all there. David was flapping his hands excitedly. He could feel this place was special. They walked inside and Moses gasped. Everything was perfect. The walls were that soft blue he had described. The lights had special switches that kids could control. There were quiet rooms with soft pillows and weighted blankets. There were sensory rooms with things to touch and play with. But the best part was the main room. It had a huge indoor tree. Not a real one, but one made of soft materials that kids could climb on or hide under. The leaves made soft rustling sounds when you touched them. "The tree was Tyler's idea," Mason said. "He said Moses is like a tree, strong and quiet and safe." Tyler ran to Moses and hugged him. He had been hugging more lately. "Moses, see? We maked it, for kids like me." But that's when they discovered something that made their blood run cold. Outside, protesters had gathered. They held signs that said horrible things. "Autism is caused by bad parenting. These kids need discipline, not coddling. Stop wasting money on broken children." Moses felt anger rise in his chest. How could people be so cruel? But then something beautiful happened. Other people started showing up. Parents with autistic children, teachers, doctors, even some of the people from the airplane. They made their own signs. Different, not less. "Thank you, Moses. Autism is not a tragedy. Ignorance is." Soon, the supporters outnumbered the protesters 10-1. A news reporter pushed through the crowd to Moses. "What do you have to say to people who think this center is unnecessary?" Moses thought carefully. Then he spoke from his heart. My grandma taught me that everyone has a voice. Some people use words. Some people use their hands. Some people, like Tyler and my cousin David, use their whole bodies. This center is for kids who talk in different ways. If you think that's wrong, maybe you're the one who needs help hearing. The crowd erupted in cheers. The center opened officially the next day. The first family to arrive had a little girl named Zara. She was 6 years old and hadn't spoken a word in her life. Her parents looked tired. So tired. "We've tried everything," Zara's mom said. "No one understands her." Moses knelt down to Zara's level. She was hiding behind her mom's legs. Moses didn't try to make her come out. Instead, he sat on the floor and pulled out his spinning top. He spun it. Zara peeked out to watch. Moses spun it again. Then he put a second top next to it and looked at Zara. An invitation. Zara slowly came out. She picked up the second top. She couldn't make it spin at first, but Moses gently showed her how. Not with words, just with patience. Soon, Zara was spinning the top and smiling. "She's smiling," her dad whispered. "She hasn't smiled in months." What would you have done in this situation? Would you have had the patience Moses had? Over the next hour, Moses showed Zara around the center. Tyler helped too, in his own way. He showed her his favorite quiet corner. David, Moses' cousin, shared his special chewy necklace that helped him when he felt stressed. By the end of the day, Zara did something amazing. She took her mom's hand and led her to the art room. She picked up a paintbrush and painted a picture. A girl with a big smile, surrounded by friends. She still didn't speak, but she had said everything. 6 months later, the Moses Center had helped over 500 children. Not fixed them, helped them. Helped them find their own ways to communicate. Helped their families understand them better. Moses still visited every week. He was 13 now, a little taller but still the same quiet, kind boy. He and Tyler were best friends, real friends. They understood each other without needing many words. The center had inspired other centers around the country. The Moses method, sitting with kids in their distress instead of trying to stop it, was being taught to teachers and parents everywhere. But the biggest change was in Tyler. Tyler was standing in front of a room full of people. His dad was beside him, but Tyler wanted to speak. It had taken months of practice, but he had something important to say. "My name, Tyler," he began. His voice was shaky but determined. "I have autism. Autism make my brain different. Not bad. Different." The crowd was silent, respectful. "Moses, my friend. Moses teach me something. He teach me—" Tyler paused, gathering his words. "He teach me I'm not broken. I'm not bad. I'm Tyler. And Tyler is good." The room exploded in applause. Moses was crying. Mason was crying. Everyone was crying. Tyler walked to Moses and handed him something. It was a certificate, written in Tyler's shaky handwriting. "Moses Williams, best friend and hero." "I'm not a hero," Moses said, like he always did. "Yes," Tyler said firmly. "You hero. You show world how to love different." Actually, let me pause here because this detail is important. Heroes aren't always the people who save the day in big, dramatic ways. Sometimes heroes are the people who sit on the floor with you when you're scared. A year passed. The threats had stopped. The Moses Center had centers in 5 states now. Moses's grandma had gotten the treatment she needed. Mason had quietly paid for all of it, though he never wanted credit. Moses was back on an airplane. This time he was flying to speak at a conference about autism acceptance. He was still scared of public speaking, but Tyler was coming with him for support. As they sat in their seats, Mason had bought 3 seats so they could sit together. A family got on the plane with a little boy who was already crying. "I'm so sorry," the mom said to everyone. "He has autism. We're trying." "Ma'am," Moses said, standing up, "it's okay. Would your son like to sit with us? My friend Tyler has autism too." The woman's eyes filled with tears of relief. "Really?" Tyler waved at the little boy. "Hi, I'm Tyler. Plain scary sometimes, but Moses make it better. Moses always make it better." The little boy slowly walked over. Moses pulled out his spinning top. He always carried one now. By the time the plane took off, the little boy was calm, playing with Tyler and Moses like they were old friends. A man in a business suit watched from across the aisle. Moses recognized him. It was the same man who had complained about Tyler on that first flight over a year ago. The man cleared his throat. "Young man, Moses, right?" Moses nodded. I owe you an apology. And Tyler, I was on your flight that day. I said some things. I was wrong. Watching you that day changed me. My nephew was diagnosed with autism 3 months ago, and instead of being sad, I remembered you. I remembered that different doesn't mean less. The man held out his hand. Moses shook it. Thank you for teaching an old man new tricks, the man said. What happened next still gives me chills, and I promise you'll never forget it. The plane landed safely. The conference was a huge success. Moses spoke for just 5 minutes. He didn't need more. He said, everyone wants to be heard. Some people use words. Some people use cries. Some people use silence. But everyone is saying something. We just need to learn how to listen, not with our ears, with our hearts. Tyler taught me that being different is like being a different color in a rainbow. If we were all the same color, there would be no rainbow, just one long, boring stripe. So next time you see someone having a hard time, don't ask what's wrong with them. Ask, how can I help? And sometimes, helping means just sitting on the floor next to them until the storm passes. The audience gave him a standing ovation. But Moses wasn't looking at them. He was looking at Tyler, who was spinning in circles at the side of the stage. Tyler's way of showing he was happy. Moses, Tyler called out, not caring that hundreds of people were watching. We did it! We helped the world! Moses smiled. No, Tyler, you helped the world, you and every kid like you, by being exactly who you are. But here's the part that no one knew until now. Mason Green stepped onto the stage. He had something to announce. Ladies and gentlemen, I need to tell you something. The Moses Center has been amazing, but Moses insisted on one condition from the beginning. He said he would only help if the center was free for families who couldn't afford it. The crowd murmured. So we made a deal. For every paying family, we help 3 families for free. But Moses didn't want anyone to know. He said, help shouldn't come with a price tag or a news camera. Mason continued, but I'm breaking that promise today, with Moses's permission, because the world needs to know something. In 1 year, Moses has donated every penny of his consultant fee back to the center. Every single penny. He kept nothing for himself. The crowd gasped. His only request was that we use the money to help more kids. As of today, thanks to Moses, we've helped 2,000 children find their voice. Moses looked uncomfortable with all the attention. Tyler noticed and grabbed his hand. It's okay, Moses, Tyler whispered. Different is beautiful, remember? Moses squeezed Tyler's hand. Those were the words Moses had taught Tyler. Now Tyler was teaching them back. 5 years have passed since that day on the airplane. Moses is 18 now, heading to college to study special education. Tyler is 12, the same age Moses was when they met. Tyler talks more now, not a lot, but enough. He has friends, he has hope. They're on an airplane again, flying to visit Moses's college. Tyler isn't scared anymore. Planes are where he met his best friend. Planes are safe. A little girl across the aisle is having a meltdown. Her parents look exhausted and embarrassed. Tyler stands up. He walks to the little girl and sits on the floor, just like Moses did for him all those years ago. He pulls out a spinning top. Moses gave it to him, and he always carries it. It's okay, Tyler says to the girl. Planes are scary, but you're brave. Brave for feeling. Brave for showing. Different is beautiful. The little girl watches the top spin. Her cries get softer. Moses watches from his seat, proud of how far Tyler has come. The girl's mom looks at Tyler with tears in her eyes. Thank you. What's your name? Tyler Green. And that's Moses Williams. He saved me once. Now I try to save others. You're the Moses and Tyler? From the video? Tyler nods. But we're not special. Everyone can be like Moses. You just have to... Tyler thinks hard for the right words. You just have to see with your heart. As the plane flies through the clouds, Moses thinks about everything that has happened. One moment of kindness on an airplane changed thousands of lives. But here's the real truth. Moses didn't save Tyler. Tyler didn't need saving. Tyler needed understanding. He needed someone to see that his screams weren't bad behavior. They were communication. His meltdowns weren't tantrums. They were his brain trying to survive overwhelming sensations. Moses understood because he listened, not to the screaming, not to the crying, but to what was underneath. A scared little boy who just needed someone to say, it's okay to be you. Can you imagine how different the world would be if everyone listened like that? Today, there are Moses centers in all 50 states. The waiting list is gone because there are enough centers for everyone. Parents no longer apologize for their autistic children. They celebrate them. And it all started with a poor boy in torn shoes who sat on the floor of an airplane and rocked back and forth, showing a rich boy that he wasn't alone. Tyler keeps a picture in his wallet. It's from that first day. Two boys on an airplane floor, one spinning atop, one watching in wonder. At the bottom in Tyler's handwriting it says, "The day I found my brother." And in Moses's handwriting underneath, "The day I learned that love doesn't need words." As the plane lands at Moses's college, Tyler hugs his friend. "Moses, will we be friends forever?" "Forever and a day after that," Moses promises. They walk off the plane together, a billionaire's son and a boy from the projects. Proof that friendship doesn't care about money or race or ability. It only cares about heart. And these two boys, they have the biggest hearts in the world. If you're still reading this, I have something important to tell you. This story spreads across the world, but not as a story about autism, not as a story about rich and poor, but as a story about humanity. Moses gets a letter one day from a girl in Japan. She writes, "I don't have autism, but I'm different too. I'm deaf. People stare at me when I sign, but your story taught me that different is beautiful. Thank you for helping me love myself." Tyler gets a video from a boy in Brazil. "I have autism like you. I thought I was broken, but you showed me I'm not broken. I'm just me, and me is enough." The letters keep coming, thousands of them, from kids who are different in every kind of way. Kids in wheelchairs, kids with Down syndrome, kids with anxiety, kids who just don't fit in. They all say the same thing. "Thank you for showing the world that different doesn't mean less." Moses and Tyler read every letter. They answer every one, because that's what heroes do. Not the flying kind of heroes, but the real kind. The kind who sit on the floor with you when the world feels too big. The kind who see you for who you are, not who the world thinks you should be. The kind who teach us that the best way to change the world isn't with force or money or power. It's with kindness, one person at a time, one moment at a time, one airplane floor at a time. You can be Moses too. The next time you see someone struggling, remember, they don't need you to fix them. They need you to see them, to sit with them, to show them they're not alone. Different is beautiful. Pass it on. Thank you for watching. May God bless you and keep watching other videos on this channel.